Hello, I'm going to talk to you about residential rental agreements. Okay, there is a certain amount of misunderstanding in respect to rental agreements in Spain, how long they last for, what you can do if you don't get paid, what are the remedies for tenants whose landlords don't assist in carrying out repairs, and a number of other items which I think are of interest. The first thing you need to know is that in Spain there are no 11-month contracts. Okay, that description is wrong. I mean, it's unfortunately widely used along the coast. It's also within the expat community is almost become law in itself, and unfortunately it has no resemblance with law, with the actual Spanish law on the matter. Contracts in Spain are freely agreed between the parties. However, there is an item in the Tenancy Act which says that if contracts are running for less than 5 years, then they can be extended by the tenant optionally, and the landlord has to accept it. This means that, for example, if you sign a 3-month contract, then the contract will last 3 months. But if the tenant is living in that property, you cannot just kick them out. The tenant is able to go to the law and say, right, although my contract runs for 3 months, or for 11 months, or for 15, or 12, or 20, or whatever number of months you want to give it to it, if it's less than 5 years, they can extend it automatically up to 5 years. And this is the protection that the law gives the tenants, and this is something you need to know, because unfortunately a lot of real estate agents operating on the coast still have samples of contracts running for 11 months, thinking that they are short-term as opposed to long-term. No, please forget about this, because it's just not right. The other thing you need to know is contracts in English are fully valid. Okay, there is no such a thing in Spain as contracts having to be in Spanish. Any contract in any official language is valid under Spanish laws. What you need to have is a translator, obviously, for that contract if you decide to go to court over it. As a landlord, what you need to know is that if the tenant doesn't pay, you can't do two things which some landlords like to do. A, you can't just go and change the locks whilst the tenant is out shopping. This is illegal and you will get prosecuted if you do this. B, you cannot turn or switch off the utilities or cut them off or arrange for the standing orders to bounce or anything like this. You've got to be careful with those things, because unfortunately those things are considered to be criminal actions, and although they're not very serious, they will cause you a headache. As a tenant, your obligation is to pay your rent. If you don't pay your rent, then the landlord will be able to kick you out. Another thing which you need to know is who pays what. Generally, utilities in Spain, when it comes to rental agreements, are paid by the tenants. However, there is a possibility to agree that the landlord will pay those, and what you do is you fix an amount of money every month for that rent. So there's a lot of freedom in respect to that. The law doesn't interfere with the agreements between the parties, except for the duration of the contract, which I've already explained. Now, in terms of who pays what relating to damage caused to the property, generally wear and tear is for the tenant, and maintenance of the property so that the property can be enjoyed for living accommodation purposes is to be paid by the landlord. There are also some specifications in respect of, for example, reforms that have to be made of the property, which are unavoidable, damp which has appeared, and so on, and those are covered by the law, if not covered by the parties. Basically, what it says is that if the repairs are going to be substantial, then the tenant is allowed to move out, thereby breaking the contract. These are small things which you would have to speak to your lawyer about, but the law does provide remedies for both parties. Finally, as a landlord, you need to know that if the tenant doesn't pay, the only option you have is to go to court and to have the tenant evicted, and if you can also collect the sums which are left outstanding. The normal process will take approximately 4 or 5 months. There's been a few changes in the procedural laws which allow landlords to evict tenants, but generally you're looking at about 4 or 5 months. So that's the sort of statistic, the average. Thank you very much.